Good morning. This is Simon with Trade and Portfolio Coaching, doing the really just a coaching session for 12/28. 8/16 is the end of the year. I want to go over some pretty important entries. Just really quick, if you're watching this and you would like to join the room or would like to have a 3-day pass to the room, simply hit this email, tradeandperform@gmail.com, and we'll go from there. So, okay, what I want to cover is getting behind the power, what happens when you get behind the power bars and how to set up trades. So one of the things, I'm just going to use a 6-tick Renko and I'm going to use ES for this. So one of the things you'll notice, so if I were to duplicate this chart, and then I go turn off all the algos, okay, except the energy bar, this, 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 this. I turn off all those algos, right? I'll leave the diamonds on there. They're not that distracting, right? And I erase everything is what I'll generally notice. So the first thing that I will generally notice is that if I'm looking for a long, right? So this is just the basic idea of how I get a construct into a trading idea, right? So if you look in general, in principle, right? If I go through, so I'll just start here randomly at midnight. We'll just kind of go through. This is on a 6-tick bar. So on ES. So if I just go through here and I go, oh, I have a power bar. I get below the power bar, and then I get another power bar underneath. I tend to get a lift off of that, right? So again, so I'm looking at longs primarily when I look at this particular trade setup. Is the volume good? Is everything sounding okay? Video's good? Okay, cool. So then I'm going to start marking these off as I go along until they're intersected, right? So that's important until they're intersected. So I don't have a way of doing it automatically yet, but on these bars, I want them to draw off until they have a future point of intersection, right? So I can do this every time I get a bar, right? And what you'll notice in general, so then it becomes a question of stretch, like how far does it stretch till it gets to a key area? But you'll notice in general, right, without being massively specific, is if I get behind one of these power bars, right, and I get the first positive bar tends to lift. Like that's the first thing you notice, like when we were developing the process, it's the first thing you notice, right? So like I could draw lines on this and kind of show you, right? So if I'm up here, right, this bar gets behind this bar and this power bar, right? Just by tick, forms a green bar and pushes up a little bit. Not very much of a rotation. You may not even want to be long or short in that area, right? But it tells you a place where you have an opportunity to grab a trade. It's not fantastic. Then I have this bar, right? Again, all we're noticing at first is I get this bar right here, positive bar, right? And excuse me, here's the first one, and it tends to lift, right? That's the only question I'm asking at this stage is if I get behind those power bars, right? So what's the frustration with this type of setup? right? Well, you can have a day like yesterday where we never get underneath the power bar, right? So like this is the first place we get underneath the power bar right here. It was literally the whole day long, right? What's the other thing that tells you automatically? That if the market's trending up and we can't get underneath the power bar, shorting is particularly difficult. But even in that environment, even with that concept per se, right? What you would notice, again, looking backwards, what you would notice if you went through that process is that even getting behind there, that when you get another power bar, there tends to be an extension down, right? See, so this, we get behind it, power bar, little tiny extension down. I'm going to go through what the problems are with this in just a second. Get behind it, power bar, little tiny extension down. This is even on trend day up, right? We get behind this power bar, we get another power bar, little tiny extension down, right? So your eyes get drawn to that. The problem when you look at that, the problem when you look at any of these is that you don't know this power, in order for this power bar to form, it does not, this bar does not show up this little blue triangle down here does not show up until the second bar is printed. That's when that develops. Right? So that creates a problem because in the rotation, right, the rotation's already gone. See that? It's already come in, set up, and a lot of times by the time you get it, particularly on the short side, if you're trading contra trend, if you're short here, you had like a few ticks to grab that trade before it snapped back on you, right? So here's a good question. Here's the next step in that development of that thought process. So we know that when we get behind the power bars, hypothetically, it sets up potential good shorts and potentially good longs. So now that I have the algo here, I turned off most of the algos except one, right? So one of the things I can do to cheat, or not cheat, but what I really want to do is I want to be able to get, when I get behind this bar, is I really want to be able to get on the first bar, right? That's what I really want to be able to do. Why I have a smaller stop and I get a bigger extension. So what you will notice is the bars that have the best results, so I'm glad I left that one algo up, right? Bars that have the best result will have a little green diamond on it for a long and a little yellow diamond on it for a short, right? So, and it eliminates stops if you adopt this way of entering the trade, right? And in just a minute, I'm going to show it in real time, hopefully, right? If you adopt it in real time, what you're going to do is go, oh, per example, that's my last power bar down here from Sunday coming into Monday morning, right? So instead of waiting for the power bar, now what I want is that I do want that little blue diamond to appear, but I want to enter on the first bar. So now I'm going to look at my power bars and I'm going to go, get me a green diamond once these stop. So that means this trade right here is not an entry. There's no trade here. I'm talking about this bar specifically right here. Why? While it did get behind the power bar, it did not produce a green diamond. Maybe it produced a star, but it didn't produce a green diamond, right? So I'm trying to lower the noise factor. So then we get, but it did create a power bar. So we get behind this power bar. Now we get behind this power bar and we get behind this power bar. Remember, this one has already been tested. I get a green diamond. I go long at the close. Remember, the diamond is showing up before you're taking the trade, right? Get the green diamond, go long here. How much would have I made if I took the trade right there? So your entry would have been on the close of this bar, which would have been 47.1850, and the best you could have done would have been 47.2150. Still 3 points for $150 a contract. Still a good trade, right? Then I finally get behind the last one, right over here. Right? Again, I get the diamond, I enter the trade, right? And then it pushes, right? So then here comes the next part of the problem that can kind of mess people up. Well, I want to get behind these bars and so on and so forth and look for the opportunities. Okay. Well, what if you shorted all day doing that? Well, let's see. So here's where I want to get behind. So I get behind, I form a power bar. So you're always asking the question, do I actually want to be short? Do I actually want to be long in this area? So my first question is, did it extend? You would have shorted 47.20 and it would have given you 47.17 and a quarter, right? So that's still 2 3/4 points, still $100 a contract, meaning I can get a good chunk of my, so I already know on this range I can get 2 points off almost every time, right? That's important. Because it lets me reduce my risk. Let's say my stop, which is this bar, right? So I would have entered 47.20, stop 47.2350. If I can get 2 points off and I have higher than a 60% win rate, right? That means my risk on the balance that's left behind, if I adopt this strategy, is take 2 off. Let's say I put on 4 contracts. I take 2 off, right? So I take 2 off for 2 points and I have 3.5 points worth of risk. Let's call it 3 3/4. Okay, so let's just call it 4. Let's just say make it easy. We make it 4 points of risk and I take 2 off. That means what I'm really risking on the net is if I can get, let's say I can get 2 points 90% of the time. Like that's just the wiggle room in the product, right? That means really on the half of the size that I'm really trying to make my money on, I get 2 points. So I can add that 2 points back on a 4-point stop. It means I risk 2 points on whatever size remains each time in hopes of getting a larger risk reward. So let's say you were wrong-minded about yesterday. You were just looking for the shorts. So this power bar you didn't short because you didn't get the green dot underneath. You're going along, you still think it's short. Well, it's not this one. Here's the first place you would have shorted. You got behind a power bar, you got the algo. Did you get your 2 points? Let's find out. That was your entry. Your maximum favorable excursion on that was 43 1/4 to 39.75. You got 3.5 points. You got your 2 points off. You got stopped on the balance. A tiny stop, right? Remember, you're on the wrong side. You're trying to short. This is not a short. That's a short. You clearly got your 2 points off, and you were able to push to a little bit of a profit. That's not an entry. This is an entry. Did you get your 2 points? Right. Got behind this power bar. That's your entry. Did you get your 2 points? Entry was 79. Low was 75.75. 3 points. What was the extension? Now I'm looking again. I'm short this bar. Did I get my 2 points? Obviously, I clearly did. That was it. That was last night at 4 in the morning, right? Up until 7 a.m. and that's where we currently sit right now, right before the open. So when I'm looking back on any of this, right, even when we're going straight down, so let's pick a place where we went straight down. This is pretty straight down right here, right? I want to do 2 things when I'm looking for my trades. First of all, I want to go back and look all the way back over here, right, to when I was in this area over here. So I have 2 ways of managing this. If we start going back down, let's say I'm looking for the long, right? So here's the other side of that coin. So first of all, I'm on the wrong range bar. You should be on an 8. But even if you're not on an 8, right, you look to the left. So when we're over here, if we're looking for the long, the first thing we're doing is we're doing this, doing this, doing this. That's the first thing that we're doing if we're looking for the long side trade. So this is the first trade, and you don't achieve your 2-point scale here. I can already tell just from looking at the bar. You just don't get it, but you got behind your power bars, and it's a stop. You just have to deal with it. Stop. No trade. Profitable. No trade because there's no diamond on top, right? So then you come back over, and even if you're using the function without looking back to the left, and you go, okay, so now that we're over here, this is okay, this is better, okay? Let's say that again. This is okay, this is better. If you'll use the power bars that form while we're going down, as opposed to while we're rolling up, they tend to work better. This power bar tells me where we're going to break. This tells me where they'll step in. So if I take this bar, right? So what I mean by that is if it's a higher low, you really want the power bar you're using to come from a lower low. I don't have another way of explaining that. So if you took this, you got to profit and you either took the whole thing off because you're in trend day down or you scaled out of it, right? Then you got behind this bar. If you took this bar, you got stopped. Again, remember, you're in heavy trend day down here, right? You got this bar and you got stopped, right? This is no trade. Nothing, 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 nothing. This is behind all these power bars. You got long here. All you did is recover your loss, which is fine. You're like getting massively trend day down there, right? This did not get behind anything. See this? What this bar does is tells me where the break will come from to the downside if I'm looking for shorts. No entry. Okay. Remember when I said if it's not coming from a lower low, if it's coming from a higher high, it's suspect. So that's the example. It got underneath, but it was from a higher high. This one came once we broke a low. It's a lower low. We get behind it. It's a valid entry. I don't have an easier way of simplifying that, but when you're in heavy trend day down, you have to deal with that. You obviously get your 2 points of risk off, right? So here's where the problem becomes a frustration. If you didn't take that trade, right? See how you're not getting behind any power bars all of a sudden? And we're above the wave. We're above the wave, the low over here to the left. We're above the smaller wave to the low, meaning A, B, C, D, right? And it's starting to push. You can wait a long time to get the trade. But if you do, see how we've already lifted off the bottom? So this is valid. This is valid, right? You want to get behind them, right? You want to get clearly behind them. See how that comes right to the low but doesn't get behind it? Behind it. Algo. And now you get that big fat push, right? You get very rewarded for your patience. That same trading process, let's say you go and you realize, take the same day and you go, hey, this is going to be trend day down, right? So this is another place frustration can come in because I need to get behind one of these using this method. Now we have another way to fix that, right? But it's a different method. I want to get behind a power bar to get short. So first of all, when you see that we can't get behind the power bars, it's a sure sign that we're trending in one direction or the other. Okay, so see over here how I get this power bar? I know that we break from that one. It's the first one down at the low. Right? I don't want to short this one. So now I either want to get above this, or now I get this power bar here, get behind that power bar, get my algo, and imagine you waited all day long for this setup, right? Let's say this is the only setup you work, right? So first of all, if you saw that it was short and you wanted to be massively short, you might be frustrated that you didn't get a short setup. There's other ways to do that, right? I'm going to show that in just a second. Okay, there's other ways to do that. But let's say you thought it was short and you were looking for that short setup, right? This was your first short entry, and even if you had waited all day for that, that particular short entry there paid you 46.82 to 46.57. Yes, I picked a hard down day to do this on. Okay, the other way to do this, is, see the power bars on the underside there? So I'm adding another wrinkle. So that's one way of treating the power bars all by themselves. But let's say I thought it was short, right? So then what I'm looking for is I'm looking for them. The other way to do it is to come back on the backside test of these power bars and without breaking them, form an algo to the downside is the other way to do it. So I can start using this. Give me an algo to the downside. I can use this. give me an algo to the downside, right? And it works the same way when we reverse. I will show you. And where do we reverse? Down here, okay? So this is my last algo down, right? My last power bar to the downside. So this bar I would not take. Why? I would not take that bar because there's no algo on top of it. When I come back, would I take this bar? I would, and I would get stopped, right? So what you're going to notice is, the first thing you should notice is what works best is if you take out a power bar that they try to reverse and failed, and then it's also backside testing another power bar to the downside, and it gives you an algo on top of that, and you get these gorgeous lifts, right? That adds a layer of intellectual or mental stress to figure that out. Let me explain that, right? So see how this bar here came back? So let's say you were looking for the long. Well, that came back and that gave you a power bar, but it didn't take out anything to the left. How about this one? So this one does two things. Takes out two power bars, right? Takes out two power bars, has to actually take them out, right? So this is the first time they get taken out. You get an algo here, and when you look back to the left, we are parallel to a down algo. So now that would add a layer of complexity. You say, I want an upward facing algo, power bar, and then I want to take out power bar like this, and then I want this. But you'll notice, the first thing you'll notice is when that happens, you get these huge rolls out of that, right? So it ups the level of complexity, but it really increases the odds of getting paid. Let me explain that. So over here, right? So over here, what I wanted, so look in here. Let me go through this. So I'm sitting over here, and let's say Sean goes, Simon, where do you want to go long? Well, the first thing I'm going to say is, if he's over here, right now, where's my downward, my opposite facing power bar, right? So I want two things. First of all, I would like it to be untested. So this one got tested over here, right? So now, what I would really like is for this one to get tested. It may not happen. Actually, I take it back. It's this one right here. I would like this one get tested up above, but it didn't form the algo off of it. What would I do there? I would say I have a downward facing algo. That became iffy. Oh, that's why. It's 1723. It's Asia. That's why it was hard. We should focus on the US session. It wouldn't have done that had it been bleeding. I'm going to turn the tables on this for just a second. Okay, so this is a good example. See how I took out this power bar? Didn't come back with an algo, but I was backside testing these two. Okay, so had this had an algo on top of it, I would have taken it, right? Now, here's the inverse. See this power bar over here? See how it came back up to test it and then gave me an algo off of it, right? So what was this missing? It didn't take out another power bar to the left. So I want to explain this for just a second so everyone understands. The more rules we make, the more complex it goes. But when you flow with it, it makes more sense. So I'm going to go to the current US session so I can show this in real time, right? So see this right here where we got behind these two power bars right here? And I get this. I'm going to go long that bar almost every time because I know I'm going to get my 2 points off of that each time. I want to show you on NQ as well. I want to use a 20 tick NQ. Let's lower CL for now. CL is different, so we'll cover it in just a minute. And let's do this with a 6-tick. Oh, I see. I have two. So we're going to go back to the regular chart for a second. Oh. I'm surprised when more people show up, but that's all right. So here's NQ on my left, excuse me, on my right. Right, so if I look here, so there's two things I want to do. First is I want to look at my chart, right? So see on ES, I just came back to test the all-time high. So I have location from a higher time frame. That's always important, right? On NQ, you can see we never made it to the all-time high, and we're coming out of the point of control, which makes perfect sense on holiday trading because we're coming out of the volume point of control and rotating up. Right, so let's say I'm uber bearish. So I can short this bar right here, right? Because see how this gave me a place to look behind? I want to get behind here. So now on ES, let's say I thought, oh, we're going to continue lower. We're going to break that and fall in. Well, now I can come and say, if I get behind here. So you got to remember, there's a distinction between trading the market and where you think the market's going to go, and you get the setup. So on NQ, right, I can go, I need to get behind. If I want to short, right, I need to get behind here, here, and here. That's like in my immediate view from the open, right? Now, if I had shorted this here, I go, okay, we came up, I got triangle up, algo down, that's all good, right? So what was my maximum favorable excursion if I took that? That was 61 to 46. For me, that's a good trade, right? That's 15 points, $300 a contract. I'm very happy with that. Which way am I trying to push the trade? Now, here's where the difficulty comes in. So as you all know, we have multiple setups. They kind of stack on top of each other, right? So which setup are you going to use? And the way you do that is you go, this is my one set, this is one potential setup that I have, right? And so let's say this is what I was going to trade today. And let's say instead of being short, I want to go long. So I know as of right now, this is probably the bar that traps to the downside. So what do I really want? I want to get underneath this guy back over here and then set up a bar with an algo on top for the long, right? So each one's going to have a little bit different behavior pattern, but even if I shorted right here, right? So let me ask, before it came back on me, how much I was able to get? That's 88.75 to 87.25. Not 2 points, right? Again, it's 8:42 in the morning, and I don't even care or know if there's any econ. But as you all know, there's a whole nother set of trades that are potential in this area. Per example, we're now above the wave to the low on NQ, right, from the open. That's the wave to the low. We all know that when you get above the wave to the low, what are you looking for that trade? What makes sense? And then that brings in a different set of analysis that I'm not going to do right here, right? Because where the confusion comes in is you have to shift gears and go, well, which trade am I doing to be comfortable, right? So if someone was trying to pick off a low, right? If someone was trying to pick off a low, and we're going to stay consistent with one method, right? Right now, what you're looking at to get long, let's say you only traded long, right? So just using this one method, you'd want to get behind here, right? You need to get below 47.82.75 and get an algo. The rule would be behind 47.82, get an algo on top, and then take a max of 2 stops in one area, right? And then line that up with what your thoughts. Like, for example, right now on NQ, we're lining up against this 16,751, which is 16,571, right? So let's say I feel that's a strong short. Okay, so what are my options for trading that strong short? Okay, so let's go through our toolkit. First of all, excuse me, I've already gotten behind this bar, just barely by a tick. It keeps moving on me a little bit because it's adjusting, but basically we got one tick behind it and we gave the algo down. So if I wanted to short it, that's fine. But I also have this power bar here and it's parallel power bars. So what would I really, really like is one of two things. So see how now I have a star that'll let me give me another method, right? That'll let me get continuation. What is that other method? It is using this bar right here, this star, and then what do I need against this star? Joyce can answer that question. I need another star to print to the downside. Now see how that star is already there before the algo forms? I know this will be a star off a star. It's another method, right? So if I'm just doing one-dimensional method and I want to enter and I didn't enter on this bar and my risk isn't already off, I either have to wait till I get above 16,575 and then form another algo, or because I can use both methods, so I would be short where that star formed, right? Like, so I would be short right now. As a matter of fact, I will do it. If I can get to my dome. If they'll get up to 553, I'll take it, but they're not going to. It fell away and I didn't have the order in. I'm at 553 if they'll give it to me. They gave it to me at 553. Okay. So now I've got this star, right? I got the star off of a star. So I don't want to get above this second star right here. So my stop has to go at 572 and I have to size it correctly, right? So I'm going to put the stop at 72. Now I got in at 5.3. I have two choices on how to manage this. I can take the 10 points of risk off, right, which I would have already hypothetically gotten over here, or I can push for 20 points. Depends on what you're comfortable executing, right? So I didn't take any of the risk off, so I might get stopped here. But had I done this trade correctly when I first got the opportunity to do it, I would have been short right on this bar, right? So remember, I have from the entry would have been roughly 5,150, right? To against 72, 73, so let's call it 23 points. And the most I was able to get would have been, let's just call it 40. It went to 39 or something like that, right? So 11 points. But the point is I don't have to get one-to-one. I have such a high win rate, and I know that it almost always, when I get that combo, gives me some kind of stretch down, right? Obviously, we're not in a bear market, so I'm just trying to use what the market's kind of donating to us for trade opportunities, right? So one of the things that happens in the room is, I want to go through this because it's important, is people get confused as to which strategy they're using and how it works best for them, right? So this is my suggestion. I kind of pivot based on where the momentum is. Like, for example, when I'm watching this, I would have wanted to get behind here. This would be my most ideal location for a potential short, would have been behind here, right? Let's say I was bearish down here. The first thing I would have done when I was down here, so the way I use this, let me explain it. The way I use this is I already know I'm at the low of the day. I need to temper my emotions, right? So if I'm trying to temper my emotions and I'm down here, so let me erase this, and I'm trading NQ or I'm trading ES, doesn't matter, right? And I go, oh, I want to be short. Well, what do we all want when we're trading, right? No one likes to get defeated with losses. No one likes to get run over. And what we all want in a fantasy land is to be able to take a trade, right? We want to be able to take a trade, hold the whole trade, and have it go for 1,000,000 points. Limit 43, if they'll give it to me. Excuse me, 51, 53, 43 scale. I got 44. Sorry, I was a little late, but still profitable. Okay. But what everyone wants, right? What everyone wants is to be able to take a trade, put on as many contracts as your account would allow, and have it go in the direction you ever had with no heat, right? So that's the fantasy. It's important to acknowledge the fantasy because that's what we all want at the end of the day is to grab a trade and have it go for a home run. Who doesn't? But then the next step or the next stage in that process is, well, since I don't get that all the time, I've got to be able to manage some sort of risk management on this trade, right? So the first question is, am I bearish or am I bullish, and what am I looking for, right? So if I'm down here, let's say I still think we're going to zero, right? And I'm down here, or I'm down here, and I want to be short so badly, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is go, well, to keep myself safe, and because I already know we're in the hole, I know we got to get past these guys, and really, I want to measure for rotation size. But I know these are the guys that I'm looking for. So what this does is it lifts up my eyes because I know from looking at higher time frames that this is what the stops are. And what does the market like to do? Take out stops. Then I have a step 2 in that process, right? And that step 2 in that process is to look for the algos once the stop to the left gets taken. And that gives me an exit. Right now, let's say I think we are going back to 16,520. That's what I'm trying to work down here. I don't know how it's going to do it. So what I'm trying to do is minimize my risk every time. Now notice, my stop when I took this trade is this bar, but what's totally possible to happen is it breaks this, gives me the shooting star with a little algo underneath, right? And then goes and makes that move. I don't know. So I need a way to curtail my bias with getting hurt. Like for example, that trade, the balance stopped out, right? And I overcovered it. I didn't adjust the stop. So flat. Let me see if I made any money or lost any money. Made money, but part of that's from this morning too, so I apologize. So I don't know if I'm up or down on that trade. I traded earlier this morning. So now, see how I've gotten behind this? This is a short for me with a stop right here. So let's just see how it works. I'll take it. So I shorted a 72 and I need an 80, let's just call it an 84 stop, right? Now, why am I doing that is the first question you should be asking. Why am I taking this short? And I can actually use an 8150 short because why? I want a triangle to show up right next to that, and I want it to be a power bar. If it's not a power bar, I don't want to be in that trade to begin with. So really it's this. It was whatever I shorted it at plus 8150 is my stop, basically. 8175 would be my stop on that because I want it to go down right away. Now, why am I shorting? Here's the question. Why am I shorting? It's a really important question. Okay, I'm shorting because I think we're going to take out this low, right? It may be totally wrong. That thesis may be totally wrong. My read on the charts may be totally wrong. Shorting may be the worst idea in the world. But since it's my thesis and I'm looking for a way to manage that thesis, this is how I'm managing it. I want to get behind the power bars. Did I do that? Indeed, I did. Do I want a bar that looks like this with a little yellow dot? Indeed, I do. Now, what do I not want? I don't want that bar to print. So that's a stop. So in order for me to get educated on that trade, right, in order for me to get educated on that trade, so I'm still willing to take the next bar with a dot underneath it, right? Now, one of the things I could have said is I need this point of control to be outside the body in order to take that trade, right? Because you'll notice the ones that extend tend to get the point of control outside of the body. Does it mean the ones inside of the body don't work? Nope. Just means the ones outside of the body tend to work really, really well, but not always, right? So I'm going to keep filtering, right, for my personal decision making. I'm going to keep filtering as I move along what exactly I want to see in order to take a trade. And so now I know, even though this one stopped, I'm still behind these power bars. So I have two places I can take trades. I can either set up here, but it can also set up here as well. If I get behind this bar and I form another algo, so I've just gotten above that bar just by a tick. If this bar forms an algo, which by the way, I can tell you if it closes at 16,570, 650, it would be a short. Now, flip it. Let's say you wanted to be long, right? If you wanted to be long, coming off that low, it didn't give me the setup I was looking for because neither one of these bars formed an algo. Now you got to write down, well, how would I feel about that if that happened? Because it did happen, right? The other thing you have to ask is, well, if it didn't happen there, right, did it happen on a 16 tick, right? Now remember, the smaller time frame you go to, the more work you're going to have to do. So here's the 16 tick, same setup, same power bar. You didn't get the algo here, but you got the algo, you got the star on the 16 tick for the long, right? And you also got the star into the low. Once they get above that, if they'll come back and if you get a close above and they come back with the star, that's a very high odds long, right? It doesn't matter which, so then we start asking questions like, which way is my bias? Am I long biased or short biased? If you're long biased, right, these were all longs in here on 16 ticks. Got behind the power bar, algo, long. You clearly got paid. This one stopped you, even though you got behind the power bar, but if you stayed with the idea, here's the power bar. Remember, this was an entry right here at 33. You got stopped at 25, and then you entered again. So you had to size so you can take it twice. You entered again on the next bar. Right now, I want to point something out. If you needed the POC, does the POC outside of the bar increase your odds? It does. Did you take this when the POC was outside of the bar? Right? That's the question you're asking. So it gets complex. So it requires study to decide which trades you are and aren't going to take. Now, let me simplify this. I'm pretty comfortable just taking the bar with the algo and not worrying about the POC and looking back and going, geez, I hope there's a POC there. I'm more concerned about the second bar putting a triangle up right afterwards. That's what I'm most concerned with. Or printing a star. The star can substitute for the triangle to the upside in both ways. So I'm going to stop there for a second. So see this over here? See this star right over here? See how that got behind that power bar right there? This is a valid entry. As a matter of fact, I can cheat now because why? I don't want that 93.50 to print. So I can short right here, which I did. I shorted 87.50, and I'm going to stop 94. Now I have a smaller stop. Why can I use that smaller stop? Why can I use this smaller stop? I can use that smaller stop because I needed this down triangle to print. So scale half at 76. Okay, so I shorted 87, I think. Well, it was at multiple areas, but 87 for the most part, right? I had started the upside that same as a triangle up. I took out a power bar to the left, and then see if this bar had closed at 94. This is where the other side of that bar would have closed, right? If that bar had closed at 94, I know I wouldn't have gotten that triangle, right? I had to have the bar closed down in order to get the triangle. So because it pushed back up into this bar, I could use it for a smaller stop. So I want to pause there. Does that make sense to you guys? I want to see if y'all have any questions. Does that make any sense, Joyce? By the way, I'm going to close that. I'm not trying to hit a home run or anything, but that does bump my P&L for the day. Do y'all have any questions, guys? So it starts with a thesis. What's your thesis? The market's going up, right? The market's going up. Next, I have to find a range. So if you see this bar right here, was it the same as it was on a 20? And I don't have a way of fixing that. So see how on a 20, it just didn't set up. What didn't it give us? The algo, right? So a trader on the 20 is gone, I didn't see anything. Trader on the 16 is like, oh, I saw that. I inherently like the 16 range bar because it gives me the most number of trades. But if you need fewer number of trades, the 20 and the 18 will work better for you, right? But it won't give you as many algo signals because those algos are hard to generate, and the more energy. Joyce, that's a different trade, my dear. You're confusing trades. I'm talking about a totally different way of trading the method that has nothing to do with stars, other than the stars can be substituted as triangles. So what you went through with the star on star, that's this. This is valid. See, they came back, touched, gave an algo, pushed down. You're looking for a long star over here. So see this? The first time underneath it didn't give a star, but now you're looking for an algo to print to the upside, or a star. What you would have looked for is this is your up star. You would have looked for it to come and make physical contact and get a star on star over here off of this star. It just didn't give it to you on the 20 range. That's all. It's a separate trade. And that's where confusion is coming up in the room, and I want to clarify it because it's much easier. It's much easier to think through a problem. By the way, you got a mini head and shoulders here, which probably means if we close above that 88, you get a push to the upside. So Joyce, I'll clarify with you. That's a good question. Ask him when we do the coaching session. I'll go through it with you. But if you're doing, so what Joyce is asking about is when the stars tend to touch one another, they set up different trades. So again, the time frame has a big impact on that. So here's the 16 tick on that same trade. So Joyce, here's your star to the upside. It never gets tested. Here's your next star right here. Comes back, comes off of that. Right? Small push, not big push. Here's your next star. Comes back, pushes underneath. This star is parallel with that star, and you get that giant lift. Right? That's a separate process completely. Just like this is here. Let's see this star. I'll go down, push. Now, eventually, if you'll treat those two as separate ecosystems in your mind, you'll be able to teach them. So the answer is yes. The answer is yes. You treat them as separate trades until the ecosystem works for you. Sorry about that. So hopefully that made sense, right? And that's why sometimes we use two different setups. So now let's say I was bullish, right? So now what am I looking for? If I want the long, so I can use the stars still. I don't want to confuse it here with what I'm teaching, right? I knew when I was up here, if I wanted to get long, I at least wanted to get behind this. See how that draws my eyes? And this. That would be really good. The more power bars you have when you get behind them, the better rotation you have. So now I have this here, right? So this has been used. I don't want to count it anymore, right? Then down here. If I'm looking for a long right now, those are the three levels that I'm looking at. What's the risk? Is that it doesn't ever take any of these out, but at least it gives me a good location. Let me give you an example of that. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to just stop. Okay, and we're going to look off to the left and go, Simon, I want to be long. And you're just using this method. I'm going to go, great. Let's get behind here. here. And particularly in this area here, if we can get behind it, right? So I'm not using any other method besides getting behind my power bars, and these are the areas I'm using right now. So let's see what happens. Okay, so see how that created a new area there? Now I'd like to get behind here. Now I don't know, this may be one of those days where we want straight up, right? But now I know where to look. Let's see how long it takes me to get along, just using one method. So that would be along, hypothetically, right? Got behind the power bar. And remember, even if this fails, which it might, even if this fails, it still saved me from anywhere, since I wanted to be long, from 15,602 all the way down to 15,570. So if I took that long, I've got my risk off clearly, right? And now I have a new place. Now it's these, right? So I got to determine, did I want to be long from there, or do I want to be long down here, right? So I'm waiting. So if I left I would have scalped that, but I would have left a trailer. I'd got the trailer stopped. Now I can get a bar here. Okay, now that got behind these two power bars, right? So I'm going to look at the chart basically and go, do I want to look at this chart, right? And I'm going to go, okay, I go along here. Let's see what happens. Now, I'm going to notice that the point of control on that bar is right at the high, and I like them right at the low, right? So that's going to be the first warning sign for me. So I get my risk off, and that's the one that goes. I guess when it's at the very high, it's fine still, right? Now, let's say I wanted to be short down here, right? I know I've got to get behind here or here, and this ends up being my first bar that gets stopped. This is my second bar, and that gives me the second extension lower. Now from there, say I'm redrawing it. Let's say I'm still bullish. I want to get long. It's here, here, then we'll just draw all this from here to here. I'm long on that bar, for better or for worse. Scale off and paid. Okay, and my first short there would have been back here. Is that starting to make sense, Joyce? How I'm using those to look for areas where we're going? Is that starting to make a little bit of sense? Sean? Good. Light bulbs are good, Joyce. I'm glad that went off. So now we can look at where we're currently trading right now, right? What did I think? Even if I wanted to be long, right, I was waiting for this, which means I took a stop here, and I was waiting for these two down here. Now, I probably, if I was looking for long, would have taken that long, right? My stop would have been on this bar right here. Why? When I get this long, I want the triangle up to print next, so that would have been a long at 41 and a stop at 33. That's all roughly, but right now my next place to look is down here. So once I get underneath that, I know what I'm already looking for, right? I'm looking for bar with an algo. So I already know if this bar prints, that would have printed an algo. This one didn't either, but I'll be long the first one that prints, right? Long. We'll see if that works out for scale. Scale, once I'm playing with my own money. Instead of paper trading it. Already got the risk off. Scale again. Quarter size. I've gotten 10 points roughly. Now, I have to make a decision, right? So I got my location. I got my stop. I paid for this stop. Had I been trading there, I would have taken that, right? So now I have to make a decision. Now, Joyce, if you want the long, combining methods, right? So now you have two choices here. You can either say, I want to see it get behind here and close back in with a star, or I want to see a star or an algo come off that 16,522. That's how you merge. That's how you merge the two methods together now, right? That's how you merge the two methods together. And I'm pretty sure if we get a POC above 16, 535 that we'll start pushing higher. Trade closed out, market right here. Okay, so that's how you do that in real time, right? And then we just lay back and wait for the rest of the trade to set up for us, right? That's starting to push into a pretty decent day right there, both long and short, right? And if you look, see how you got the algo up here off the star? See how it came up to the star? It needed to close back above that with a point of control instead of giving algo. It's a separate method, right? And that's where confusion's coming in. And if you can't figure out all those methods, right? If you can't, I'm going to say that again. If you can't figure out all those methods, so see how this has to get a positive bar with a point of control above? If I could short that 37 against 41, which I'll do right now. Okay, now I'm going to put my stop at 42. Because I know in order to break up, I've got to get a point of control above this bar. And if it fails to do so, it'll roll lower. Now, I may get stopped on that, right? But it's 37 against 42, which is basically 5 points in exchange for an RR that could take me back to retest the low. I don't have a power bar over here to get behind for short. And what you'll do is you go through these methods over time is you'll make a determination as to whether or not you want to be trading that, which method and how you want to take those setups, right? What we'd like here is, because we're coming against this star and this star, is we'd like an algo down to the downside for continuation lower, right? And I'm still at risk of being stopped on that trade. Well, not anymore. Now I'm profitable on that trade, right? So I want this bar to complete down here and then push lower, right? And I'm going to have to determine, so see how I didn't get an algo on that one either? So I know if I get a point of control above this point on a positive bar, we're probably pushing back up higher. I got to make a decision as to whether or not I want to stay with the short that I took near the low of the day. And also the other negative here is that we're at the prior day's POC, right? And that's, as we all know, is a very difficult place in general to trade. So because of that, I'm going to take this trade down to half size right now. While it's still profitable. I've done that now. And again, I'm combining methods, right? So I know, because I know how these algos formed, that I had to get a positive bar with a point of control above, close market, okay? And that's how I was able to take that trade down. Does that make sense? Hey, Rich, good morning. Hey, Peter, good morning. Good to see you. So now I'm going to link it, and I'm going to link it all on one chart. I'm just going to do it. So see how I'm behind here, and I've taken this out? So if I get an algo here, I'm going to go long against this chart for a push back to the upside. Right? I'm behind the power bar. I'm going to look for a long, and what I'm seeing in the room is that people are trying to do 5 methods at once. Don't. Pick out 1 or 2 that you can execute over and over again. So there's nothing for me to do here yet. I know I'm in a place where I don't have support, so I got to keep in mind that everything's here scalpy, right? Where do I really want to try to press it? Behind prior day's value area low, right? So I have that chart in mind. I got lucky there. I traded at the point of control and made money. That's a rare event. I'm actually on a pretty damn good day here, unintentionally. And by the way, I documented what this looked like from the high. Is the same setup that I showed this morning on NQ, and I put it out step by step. You should all be printing that off. Long. And then you get 29. That may be a bridge too far, but we'll see. Scale here. Sorry, I was late on the trade. I already got my 10 points. That's why I scaled it off. See that? I should have been long right here. See that? So I should have been long 1750. I was long 19 and 20. So that gate went right to 10 points for my scale. That's why I took the trade out. And we're obviously in a pretty steady downtrend. And at the point of control, it's a bad place to screw around with the thing. So another thing, if I get behind this now, so I know this bar takes a lot of energy to form. If I get a point of control, positive bar, orthodox close above this point of control, not the bar, just that point of control, dang it. Let me draw it on the point of control. If I get a positive bar with a point of control orthodox above this point of control, we're probably pushing back higher. Again, I took out a star with an algo. This is usually a strong long for me, right? That's usually something that I would try to take long from that location with a stop at the low, right? Again, I'm playing with theoretical fire, so I'm long from 09, which I just got to, and I will stop the low. Okay, so I'm long from 16,509, stop at the low. Why? I got an algo, came back and met it with a star, and I already know from past experience that generates strong responses back up. Scale 19 to get my risk off if I can get it. I don't have it yet. Don't have it yet. I'll tell you if I get it. May not get it, but I'll try. Almost there. And if you look at it and you don't like the way it looks, just you're profitable on it. Just, yeah. Those are double stars there, so that should really lift off of that area. So not yet. I'm just missing that 19. 19 done. So scaled off. All my risk is off on that trade. And now if I think that's low, which I have no reason to believe, by the way, because this gets back to what I was writing earlier this morning. I have no reason to believe that's low because I have nothing from a higher time frame to make me believe that's a trade. So what I want y'all to see is how I'm drawing my eye to two separate setups, right? And I'm using the power bars to help me determine where I think there'll be turns or where there won't be turns in the market. But I know if I keep drawing my eye back here, that it technically, think of it as oversold once it gets behind these and it gives you an algo. And you have a very good chance of getting a scalp out of that could potentially turn into a swing, right? So this is still valid here, right? And if it gets behind there again, see these triangles that we're printing near the low? This is sellers really jamming themselves, trying to push lower. In the heaviest of down markets, that works, but usually those guys get screwed. Matter of fact, I'd say if this bar closes, this guy's completely out of luck right here. If that 1350 goes, he is probably out of luck, would be my guess. If that bar prints, they're probably going to push, and you can use the stop of the low of the day as that measure, because this guy pushed really hard right there. See how they can't push against him yet? Which is why I'm limiting it at where the bar would close. And so now I'm reading the algos as they're presenting themselves, because I know I'm in the right area, because I can see the sellers trapping themselves here, right? I can see this guy pushing, right? We got to get back above this guy. We got to get above this guy. Getting behind this guy will be tough. This is a trapped seller right here. I want to see it close back into that guy. I want to get above. See how I couldn't get the point of control above that 16,507? I now know that that's an important area because they tried, right? I witnessed them trying to get it above, and it just didn't work, right? It just didn't work. So, and that's all fine. There's nothing wrong with that idea. So see that right there? That's long for me. Long, 16,500. 01 actually is where it went down, right? Where's my stop? At the low, right? So 91. Scale, half, market. Using the same method over and over again, okay? Where this is going to become a problem is days like yesterday where it just never gets behind those areas and you're going to sit there and get frustrated. So I want to switch segue for just a second. As everyone knows who's been in the room, I've had a real agitation with the market going straight up, straight down, right? I've taken too much of an interest, closed market out all. So that right there, see how I can make a total living just from scalping from behind these levels, right? That was a 20-point trade, $400 a contract, right? I put on pretty monster trade without grabbing any one particularly large trade for the day, right? And not particularly large size either. I have been frustrated with the market going straight up or straight down instead of being focused just on what the algos tell me. And I've been doing a lot of mental work over the weekend, over the past week. And so my goal is to stay as neutral to the market as humanly possible, right? I want to stay as neutral to the market as humanly possible. And so I want people to call me out. Hey, Simon, you're getting upset about the market. So all I want to do is go, what's happening, right? What I did and what I'm going to do next. And the answer to what I'm always going to do next is I'm going to take a trade on process. Even if I'm getting my ass beat, it's going to be on process, right? And I'm just going to let it flow with it, right? I'm just going to let it flow with it. So like, I want to give you an example. Let's say you were just uber bearish, right? Down here. He said, I want to short, we're going to zero. This is the top. And you decide that right here, right? You decided that right here in the hole that we're going to zero. The way you fix that is you have three options here, right? You have the first option I would go with is this, and this, followed by an algo. Notice that if you had the emotion, we're going lower, right? Combined with the algo, I've got to get behind one of these guys to short. You just saved yourself, depending on where you had that emotion, from 96 to 37. That's 800 a contract, right? 40 points, 800 a contract. It will retard your emotional response, right, to the market. Next, what do you have to see? So I know a couple of things. Remember I said if we get past this guy, we're probably going to lift? See that? He's a marker, right? He's a marker, right? Why? Because I know those triangles down come with big effort. Usually they come right at the top, not at the bottom, right? So those triangles down tell me, hey, these guys are jammed. Not only that, I know something about that now. I know this guy is stuck, and if he shorted there, guess what? He probably wants to cover. So if I had to look for a place, how am I going to do this? Well, I know I've got a diamond here, a star up, excuse me, right? Now, it could come off of this one, hypothetically, but what I would really love is for it to come back over here, dip down in here, and then give me an algo this way for the launch, right? So if I'm bullish, I think we're going to go retest that 16,571 or the 16,627, which either one is possible, right? I can now set my structure to understanding. What's the risk? Maybe it runs away from me. Now, I was bullish in this case. Why was I bullish? 3 power bars. I know power bars are hard to form. They just don't form all over the place, right? Take a lot of energy, right? And when you get behind them, I already hopefully have demonstrated this morning that they set up over and over and over again, right? So if I'm bearish, probably want to take that out, right? It still can set up from this and this, but probably want to take that guy out, right? If I'm and where am I shooting for if I'm bearish? Now I know this guy's trapped, right? This guy's trapped. This guy's trapped. This guy's trapped. A lot of trapped sellers below, right? That's why Bill and I are always looking for those triangles up at lows because it tells me people are getting screwed, right? So let me show you this morning on the 20 tick bar where I was looking for a short, which I posted this morning. I went through step by step on it. 16, I think I put the 20 in the box. Let's see. While we wait for that to come back, there's the 20 tick. So this morning, and I posted the whole series. This whole series is posted back here. So there's the end result, and each one of you should be printing this off in color if you can and posting it to your journals. Okay, it's all right up here. I literally wrote my notes step by step. So this is what I was thinking before, right when I initiated the trade. right? Step by step. There's picture 2, there's picture 3, there's picture 4. Step by step on what I was looking for. Okay, so it's all there. You can print it. I did it for the benefit of everyone, including myself. All right. So what did I have? First thing is I have a trap buyer over here, right? I know when I get above a trap buyer, then back below a trap buyer, that tends to signal a reversal. Okay. Second, what am I looking for up near the highs? There's my triangle up. I know when I get behind them, in general, doesn't work every time, that it signals that we could trade lower, right? Get behind the triangle, we trade lower. Start of the downside. Start of the downside comes back with an algo to the downside. That was the entry bar right there, 16,445. Or the method of power bar, get behind the power bar, create another power bar with a triangle down. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 different methods you could have used to get short up there or combine them all in one area, and all of that would have combined for trade of over 100 points or $2,000 a contract off the 20 range, right? Just depends on how you want to attack. So anyways, I'm going to stop the recording there. Does anyone have any questions? I'll answer them. Floor's open, guys. This bar right here with a diamond on it. I'm waiting for you, Sean, if you have a question. No, it's just really wide range, and I just started off thinking this morning and it just appeared in front of my eyes. So usually I have a 16 and I'll have a 20 on another chart. Sometimes it gets too fast for me to process a 16. Like so many signals get processed that I go like, whoa, what's going on? Right? Sometimes also the range like is important. If you're not having the rotation size, the 20 tick covers 20 ticks, right? So the high and low of the bar is 42 to 28, since my stop is basically near the bottom of that bar. It's harder for me to aggressively take this if I don't see the rotations in the market, because I don't get my 1-to-1 necessarily off of 20, and I can off of 16. Trade-off is the 16 is fast, and I've really got to have my mind in shape to do it correctly. But importantly, they both work. Right, so let's go see if ES did anything, but it's the same process on ES. I know what I'm going to do here since I'm not looking at CL today. It works a little differently on CL, and I'll cover that on another day. Okay, so see here if I'm looking for the short, see how I haven't gotten a short signal yet? It saves me from my own backside getting crunched, right? And then on a 6 tick on ES, it's the same thing. See how we just took out the power bar? Came back with an algo. That was your short at 9 o'clock, right? So the important thing is once you have the triangle, you got to determine whether you want to use a 1 bar or 2 bar stop. So the 1 bar is attractive because it gets your best risk reward. However, it can be painful. So see if I'm looking for a short now. Now I know I'm behind all these power bars. right? See that? So I know I'm either going to have to travel all the way up here to take out this one. I can get an algo off of this place here too. Like I'm looking for where, like if I came up and touched this bar and got an algo down, I would take that, right? Or I'm looking to get behind here and give me a true algo. This is one of those bastardized bars that I haven't been able to program out yet. So I wouldn't take that. And see this, would I take this? No, why? I want to at least get behind. Oh, I did. I take it back. That's a valid short, right? I want the next bar to be down. So see that 47.89.75? I can short that 89.75 against, let's just call it 91, right? Because if that bar forms, I don't want it anyways. I want it to do this. Boop, 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 boop. So I can short that knowing that it closes right there, and then I don't want to be in the bar. I don't want to be in that trade anymore anyways, right? So see how I can use that to control my risk and give me great entries. And obviously, the entry that I want, right, if you're looking long, this was the entry that you wanted, and it lined up perfectly for you. You don't want to use this to ping pong yourself all over the chart, right? You do not want to use this so that you're taking every trade. You'll be mentally worn out by the end of the day. So see how this just touched right here? So this is a third setup. So see how we just touched right there? If this gives me an algo off of that, I would take that. So I'd be limited at 16,549 if I can get to my dome quickly enough. 49.25. Okay, so I'm limited at 49.25 because I know the bar will close at 49.50, right? My initial stop's going to go at 61.75. I know where that bar will close, and then I'll adjust it to whatever the next up bar would be, and I want this to be an algo when it forms, and if it's not, I'm gone off of that too. I'm history. See how using a bigger stop than this one bar in here didn't make any sense? I needed the triangle down. So I'm just asking to get my ass beat. So now what do I want? I don't have an upside algo, right? I need this bar to get tested, or I need an algo down back into this bar over here. Actually, I can still use any algo down in between here and here for the short, right? It's just not going anywhere. And if you'll notice the long that we had off the bottom, a short hasn't set up since that point, right? A short has not set up since that point. And remember through all of this, if you kept scaling and letting your stop you, scale, stop, but you were in an area where you thought we were going to lift, you finally got your scale off and you take your hands off, our entry was right here, 97 or 98, whatever it was. You now have a 62-point trade or $1,200 a contract, right? It's a pretty good trade. And you have not been flagged in short on any of this, right? I'm combining 2 or 3 methods at one time. That's where if you want it to come down to one signal, just take one method, right? If you want it to come down to one signal, take one method. But that's how I flow through the market when the market has range like it does today. That's how I can flow through the market. And then I'm also totally accepting we could go to new highs today or new lows. I don't care, right? Right now I can't tell. Frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if we tacked on another 100 points. And it wouldn't surprise me if the S&P 500 went to 5,000. Why wouldn't it surprise me? Because it would upset me if I did get surprised. So I'm just going to go, okay, 5,000 or 4,500. Either one is fine with me. So hopefully sewing all those pieces together made sense. I'm going to stop the recording here and I'll post it.